Hello, hi students. Today I just got some free time, so I thought that I'll talk to all of you because many students have requested me to put some quick tips on this coming OET sessions, this coming OET exams, which is coming on this July 14th. So I just thought of like sharing some good tips or sharing some useful tips for you or for OET writing. So, like all these candidates who are going for July 14th, I just want you to be very sure. I want you to be confident enough to write when you are giving your OET writing sessions. Now, what I want to suggest today, like I have seen in various examinations, I've seen various language exams, like student is not able to understand what the question is all about, or student is not able to understand even specifically in OET, when student is not able to understand what kind of letter he or she is going to write. Now, that is something you need to be very careful when you're writing. Now, since all of you may be aware the types of letter which are present in OET are four types, that is discharge, transfer, referral, and there is one more, that is advice letter. But advice letter is no more us. It is not much so popular in OET exams, but most of the time we have seen more commonly a discharge or referral letter is being asked. But however, sometimes that students are not able to identify what kind of letter is that. Then how should you organize your letter? So that is something which I would be sharing. It would be a quick tip for you to understand how to understand your case notes in a much better way. So I would say the first thing, that is your first paragraph which you write. Anyways, in your OET exams, only the body of your letter is being assessed. So you really don't need to worry like what you write, how you start or your name of the person to whom you're writing, or maybe the designation, or maybe the address of the person to whom you're writing. That is not much important, but the body of the letter is more important. So you need to understand how will you organize your letter. Okay, so the first paragraph what you write would be all about the overview of the case note which is given to you. Now, what does this overview meant by? Now, that is something which you need to understand. Now, overview is something which will give a complete idea of the current situation. It will also give the complete idea who the patient is, what was his diagnosis, when was he presented, and your purpose. These five things need to be clearly mentioned in your letter. Now, this is something which you need to be careful when you're doing your OET writing. Your first paragraph need to be perfectly written with these five sentences, which will give a good impression to your evaluator who is evaluating your paper, which gives a clear-cut idea. You understood who the patient is, you've identified the patient very well, you understood what was the diagnosis, when was he presented, and the current situation, and what is your purpose of writing this letter. That is something which I really want you to write in your letters. Now, what is my intention behind this lecture is, like, if you're not able to identify what kind of letter you're going to write, is it a referral, is it a discharge, or be it a transfer letter, you're not so sure because in your question it is nowhere mentioned what kind of letter you're going to write. Then at that point of time, it is better to understand a general structure. Your first paragraph will be all about the overview of the situation. Second paragraph will be all about the history of the patient. It can be medical, social, or personal history, or the initial health of the patient. Initial health involves, see, many people have, like many candidates who try to attempt the OET examinations, I've seen in the first paragraph, they try to involve all the associated symptoms, which is not required, guys. Please understand this very clear. Second paragraph should have all the associated symptoms, but your first paragraph should not have associated symptoms. Now, let me be more clear. Your first paragraph should have five things in it. First one, that is who the patient is. Now, in this sentence, who the patient is, it is better to write, either you can start with I am writing this letter in reference to the above captioned patient. The reason why, like most of the candidates do repeat the name of the patient, the age of the patient, that is not required, guys. Please understand, your examiner or your evaluator who would be evaluating your paper, they are not looking for fancy words. They are not looking for big cliche sentences. All those things are not required. The only thing what they require is, are you able to communicate as normal, as simple as possible? That is something which is required. So make sure you do not repeat informations again and again. That is not required. Try to communicate as simple as possible. Second detail, what is required in your first paragraph is, when was he presented? When was he presented? Third thing, what is required in your letter? What was his diagnosis? Now, when was he presented? That is the date when the patient was admitted. So you can say that he was presented on a particular date and he was diagnosed with whatever the prime diagnosis. Fourth one, what is the current situation at present? What is the situation of the patient? And the fifth one is, what is your purpose? So you need to be very clear with this. You need to be very clear with these things. These 5 sentences need to be clearly mentioned in your letter. It should say you have identified the patient, you understood when was he admitted, you understood what was the diagnosis, you understood the current situation which is mentioned in the case notes, and you have given the purpose. These 5 things are required, are necessary when you're doing your letter. Now, keep it very clear. Now, if you're not so sure what kind of letter you're writing, your first paragraph remains the same, the overview. Second paragraph will have the history of the patient or maybe the initial health, which means at the beginning, when the patient was presented to you, at that point of time, what was the patient's condition? That is something which is required over here. Second paragraph is all about the initial things. Your third paragraph is all about the recent activities. So please understand, I'm keeping it very simple, which can also be called as recent treatment and progress, or recent activities which need to. So all recent things, any recent events which had occurred, any recent accidents which had occurred, any recent infections which has occurred. So all those informations you need to involve in the third paragraph. And fourth is all about, this fourth paragraph is, in any kind of letter, it will be always about request or recommendations. Now you need to be very clear in this. You write all the things which you want to tell the target reader, like what are you expecting, or what he should expect, or what the patient should do in future. Everything which need to be done in future need to be written in the fourth paragraph. And fifth para is closing. That is, you just close the letter with 2 lines. If you need any further clarification, please do not hesitate to contact me or my department. This is the best closing line which you can put. But what I want to suggest over here is, when you're not sure what kind of letter is, keep in mind only one thing. Your first paragraph and fourth paragraph remain same for all the letters. First paragraph will see the overview. What is the overview of the condition? What is the overview of the situation? Second paragraph will talk about the history or the beginning or the initial thing. Third paragraph will talk about all the recent activities. Fourth is request and recommendations, and fifth is closing. If you're not aware what kind of letter is it, I'm re-mentioning it, guys. Write as simple as possible. I know there are various trainers, many institutes, or I've seen many teachers suggesting to put fancy words, like you can say decorate your essays with fancy sentences, complex sentences. All those things are not required. They are present to assess your language. If you have a good language, that's all is required. All these things are not required. See, if you are content enough with a language, and if you're able to communicate, if you're able to convey what the message has to be conveyed, that's all is enough. Why do you actually require those fancy words? And just to add, evaluators can easily assess when you're trying to decorate your essays or when you're trying to make it more fancy. That will definitely bring down your score, because they can analyze easily that it is a learned word. Learned words are not awarded with points. So please understand, do not put fancy words when you're not so sure about it. It's always better if you're very savvy and sure about like how to use it. You're very much aware about it usage. Definitely, yes, you can use it. Otherwise, do not use it. Write as simple as possible. That will be the best thing that you can do in your examination. So when you're thinking about a case note, now this is also one more point, one more crucial point, which would be important if you're writing a letter. Now, if you're writing OET letter, please understand, you need to understand first, the first initial 5 minutes, which is given to you to read the case notes. You need to do one thing. You need to understand who the target reader is. And once you identify who the target reader is, please identify his point of view, target reader's point of view. Now, the reason why I'm saying your target reader may be a medical person, maybe a non-medical, like he can be anyone. So please understand, if you're writing it to a medical person, you would require all medical information. But if you're writing it to a non-medical person, much detailed medical histories, much detailed treatment won't be required. This is something most of the candidates go wrong when they're writing your OET exams. That's the reason they don't clear up to C, C+, they don't come to B. The reason is they have not understood the point of reader's point of view, the target reader's point of view. That is something which you need to understand, guys. You need to understand the target reader. You need to understand what is his point of view. If that is clear in your mind, you will be able to write a good letter. Structure has got only 20% of importance, but 80% importance is given to your language. The sentence is what you make. You need to format a simple sentence and you need to convey your message to the other person to whom you're writing. That is the only thing which is being assessed in your OET writing. Okay. Other thing with a crucial tip which I want to discuss in reading. Now, please understand, guys, with my experience, I'm telling this is not part of OET, or this is not part of their assessment or their questionnaire structuring. This is with experience I have found this. In reading part A, I've always found question number 1 to question number 10. I have found with intermediate difficulty in part A, I'm saying question number 1 to question number 10, it's intermediate difficulty, I can say. It is not much difficult. You will be able to find answers quick. It will not be that difficult. But question number, most of the candidates can relate with me, like when they're doing the part A, they could find after question number 11 to question number 20, they find it more difficult. They find it more complex. Now, they may feel like, no, I'm not able to reach more than 17, or I'm not able to reach more than 15. The reason may be from 11 to 14, you're taking more time. You may be crossing more than 6 to 7 minutes just to solve 4 to 5 questions. Wherein the candidates who are able to cross above 20, they will find question number 20 to 25 or 26 or 27, they find it more easy. They're finding answers quick. So the reason is the easiest ones, or at the end, the people who formulate these question papers, they may not put the difficult ones. Those may be the easiest ones. So what you can do is, if you're doing your part A and you're at the level of 13 or 15 questions you have attempted, and you see that there are only 3 or 4 minutes left, it's better to jump to 22nd to 27. And if you do it in your practice now, you yourself can identify 22 to 27, you're getting answers quick. So your number of questions which need to be increased or which need to be scored well in part A, you can pick up that score. You can try this. This can definitely help, because with experience I've seen with my candidates, they're picking up answers with this technique. Question number 1 to 10, reach till 11 or 14 or 15. And from there, go after 21. 21 to 27, you will get it very quick. You can try this. This is just a suggestion which I am forwarding. You can try and see that if it works for you, because for every individual, it works differently. Okay. And reading part B, please understand a quick tip which I'll give you for reading part B. That is, if you're doing multiple choice question, everyone may be aware that in your part B multiple choice questions, for every question, you have 2 possible answers, right? Now, most of the candidates are confused. How should I identify which is the closest one? Please read word by word. The meaning should convey exactly word by word what is given to you in the option. Then only your answer will be correct, guys. You need to make sure whatever you have read in the options in reading part B, in the particular option which is given, each word and the meaning of the complete sentence is matching with the paragraph. Then only that becomes the closest match. You need to check with this. Now, you need to be very well observant candidate, that you need to be very sure what you're reading, you're understanding, guys. Now, people who are really very slow in reading, I just wish to mention one thing. You need to develop your reading speed. On an average, a candidate has a reading speed of 160 words per minute. This is what I've seen with an average candidate, but those who are a good reader, their speed would be 200 to 220 words per minute. Now, this is something which you need to develop if you want to be really good in skimming and scanning ability. If you really want to be good in skimming and scanning ability, you really need to develop this. Now, I focus, when I train my candidates, I focus more on this. I want candidates to read books because only these materials, what you solve, or maybe the practice materials which is given to you by your institutes will not help. You need to do activities. You need to actually practice by reading, summarizing. There are a lot of activities which you need to do. You need to also work on your recollecting memory if you want to be very good with your reading part A. Because certain people, they read questions, they go to the paragraph, and then they realize, I don't remember the question. Then they again go back to the question, then they forget what they read in the passage. This goes on, and at the end, you give up. And you just choose any one of the answers and move ahead. Because that is the way our brain is designed. The things which you're not uncomfortable, the things which you're uncomfortable with, your brain will not allow you to do that. So you need to be very sure, you need to be very much sure that you are comfortable with each and every task. So I would suggest people who are preparing for July, I would suggest from now, every day do 3 tasks, that is listening, reading, and writing all together. Because I'm telling with candidates experience, I've seen with candidates, they say that when we went to the examinations hall, we were completely tired, exhausted, we felt sleepy. The reason is they never sat together all together for 2.5 hours. They didn't do all the tasks together. They were doing individual tasks because most of the candidates I've seen, they do reading one day, next day they do writing, then they do listening. But when you go for examination, you need to do all 3 things together. That becomes more tiring and exhaustive. So please understand, from now to today, you have got 20 days. It's better to do all the 3 tests together. That will definitely help you to achieve the score what is required. Listening, reading, and writing all together is required when you do your test. It's better 20 days you have, at least utilize those 20 days. For any other tips or any other queries you have about OET, you can definitely contact me. I will be available to help you, or I can give you some tips which would be valuable and which can help you to achieve your score. So definitely, guys, thank you so much for being here and watching this lecture. So any feedbacks or anything or any question you have about OET, you can put it in the comment box, or you can contact me directly on the phone numbers given below, and I'll be definitely there to help you. Thank you so much and have a beautiful evening. Bye-bye.